Hi, ladies. My name's Angela. Thank you so much for coming to my YouTube channel. Really happy to have you here. For those of you that may not have met me, I am a functional medicine practitioner, and I've been a healthcare professional in the field of women's health for over 20 years. And I have a passion for helping women learn how to rebalance their health naturally, especially as you enter into your 40s and beyond, and that transitional time into perimenopause and menopause. And I know there's many things that come up as far as imbalances and symptoms. I'm also in this time period of life, so I'm right there with you. And I do know that there are some things that can be done that you may or may not be aware of yet that could help you have a much easier time through this transition and help you actually restore your health versus watching it go downhill from here. So one thing that I do find is absolutely essential for women to understand is that it's not just about your sex hormones lowering and changing and your cycle changing and eventually coming to a halt as you get into menopause. There's many systems at play that actually need to be balanced to help you have a smooth transition. And one of those is your adrenals. So what our adrenals are responsible for primarily, especially before we transition into menopause, is to really help us buffer and manage our stress response. And this is a communication that the adrenals have with our brain to help us understand how much cortisol, our primary stress hormone protector, does the body need to pump out as our brain responds to these, what we perceive as stressful life events. They may be emotional, they may be physical, they may be a combination of things. And what happens over time often is if the body is under constant stress, and let's face it, in this world we live in today, it can be under stress for so many different reasons, just everyday life stressors, being busy, managing a million different things. Many women in this time period of life have, feel like they've got 101 balls in the air every single day of the week. And then on top of that, often there are relationship stressors, there's often stressors in regards to health, both with yourself, possibly family members, maybe aging parents, these kinds of things. There's often extra day-to-day things that just come up on top of your plate of everyday busyness. And often the body just cannot keep up with the amount of cortisol output that is required for your busy everyday life. So this puts pressure on the adrenals over time. Now, the real kicker is that you actually need your adrenal health to be even more optimized as you get closer to and transition into menopause, because your adrenals are going to help your body actually compensate and manage that transition into the declining sex hormone production by your ovaries. The adrenals should be kicking in to actually help, and they're going to start to produce a little more of that as you transition into menopause. Now, of course, this is with everything working as optimally and as balanced as possible. But let's face it, if you're under chronic stress, you have been for years, this transition is probably not going to be that smooth. The adrenals may not be functioning as well as they could be, and it could be a really rocky ride. And so what women often do experience in this rocky ride when the adrenals are out of balance due to high stress is they feel like they have brain fog all the time, they have memory, focus, concentration issues. They often feel like they're more susceptible to pain. They're more sensitive emotionally. They find that their emotions are all over the place. At one minute, they're sad. One minute, they're happy. They can be very irritable. And it seems like for something that's not really matched to the event. And this is definitely a sign that the adrenals are taxed, they're overburdened, and the body and the brain just aren't functioning properly to cope with this. So if this sounds like you, if it sounds quite possible, you may need some help supporting your adrenals. Another symptom that's very common is that women do report they have changes to their weight. They have weight loss resistance. They feel like no matter what they do, no matter how restrictive they get with their calories, how long their intermittent fasts are, they still can't lose weight, and it's very frustrating. And again, this happens sometimes as a response of the adrenals because the body's perceiving so much stress that it actually slows down its metabolism to try and protect the body from all of that stress. So if you do go into more caloric restriction, you actually put the body under more stress, the adrenals get under more pressure, and it can really just backfire. So you can see how this can really become quite the storm if the adrenals get out of balance due to too much stress. I certainly know how this feels, and I've seen this with so many of my clients that I work with. We get the lifestyle back on track. We get you working on exercise, a proper whole foods diet. We check on lab testing. We make sure that you are using supplement supports for nutrition if need be, if you're deficient anywhere. We work on helping you rebalance your gut. Many women have positive responses to this, but also there is many women that actually don't get exactly where they want to get to with their mood balance, with their energy levels. even with how they're feeling with their cycles and that transitional time into menopause. And a lot of the reason for this has to do with imbalances in the adrenals. So unless we address this, unless we understand what's triggering that stress, unless we start to really acknowledge that we may be under too much stress, and we actually look at ways to help both reduce stress as well as improve resiliency to stress, we may be fighting an uphill battle no matter what we do. And so I work with so many women that say, I'm just so frustrated. I've done all these things and I still feel like I'm not where I want to be. What can I do? So I want to let you know there is no quick fix solution to this. If you have been suffering from adrenal imbalances for a long time, which you may have been, whether you know it or not, it's going to take some work to get the adrenals back on track. And again, it's not that you're necessarily going to be constantly fighting an uphill battle, but as your female sex hormones lower and your body is starting to rely on these adrenals more, it is going to put a little more pressure on them. So it's almost more essential now than ever that you get your adrenals back on track, you get your cortisol levels rebalanced, and we get you buffering that stress that's coming at you on an everyday basis so that you can not only become symptom-free, feel better in your body, feel better in your physical and mental response to life, but that you're also preventative of disease. If the adrenals get out of balance for too long, cortisol production gets too high. This is very inflammatory on the body. Inflammation can lead to development of disease. For females especially, we're at higher risk as we get towards and transition to menopause for things like female cancers, breast cancers, what have you. We're also at higher risk for things like diabetes, other heart and cardiometabolic conditions. So we need to be mindful of this and understand it's not just about how we feel and our symptoms, it's also about being preventative against the development of a chronic condition or disease. So what is the first thing you can do? One thing I will say that I know personally, and I see this with every single woman that I work with, if you can carve out even just 10 or 20 minutes per day out of your life where you dedicate it 100% to you, doesn't matter what it is, something that you enjoy, it might even just be doing nothing, but something that just allows you to pay attention to you. This can make a huge difference. I know sometimes I am very lucky in that I can actually do this for a whole day. It may not be that often, but I find it just resets my nervous system incredibly. So make sure that you don't ignore this and that you find a way. You may need to chat with other family members, people living in your household. It might even be chatting with people at your work to figure out a schedule so that you can get some time to relax. It's absolutely essential to those adrenals starting to rebalance. If they're always perceiving stress, if the brain is always perceiving a stressful response, you're never going to get the recovery in those adrenals no matter what you try. So we don't typically in our culture honor resting, relaxing, not being busy, but it's absolutely essential for your survival and for your health. So that's my number one tip. And I find when women can actually allow themselves to take this time, it makes a world of difference. And again, you could be doing all the other right things for your lifestyle, but if you never take the time to rest, you're not going to be able to balance those adrenals. I guarantee it. The other thing that's absolutely essential that some people often forget about is you've really got to keep yourself hydrated throughout the day. So typically I do suggest that women are taking in a gallon of water a day, or 3-4 liters. It can be that much that's needed. And that actually also helps to nourish the adrenals. It helps to maintain the balance between your electrolytes. You may also actually even need to add, if your adrenals are under a ton of pressure, a little bit of Himalayan salt or an electrolyte that you like that's not high in sugar into that water once or twice per day per glass. And this has a huge positive impact on those adrenals. As soon as we're dehydrated, the body perceives stress and it starts to produce more cortisol. So those are two great tips, and they're things that you can put in place right away. The third tip is to actually make sure that you work with someone such as myself, a functional medicine practitioner that can run lab testing. I do recommend that women do what's called the Dutch hormone test that looks at your adrenals, looks at how they're functioning. It also looks at your sex hormones. It looks at how all of those hormones are being processed to really understand how to get the balance back in that picture as you move towards and transition into menopause. So if you want to take that third step, I definitely suggest that you reach out to me. You can go to my website, www.angelasimpsonfunctionalmedicine.ca, and I'd be really happy to have a complimentary consult with you. We can chat about your health, your adrenals, how you perceive your stress response, and we can talk about if it would be a good fit potentially for us to work together and do some lab testing to help you get to the root cause of the problem so we can develop a lifestyle plan for you for long-term success and healing. You also can reach me there through my website by going to my contact link. And if you feel like you're not sure yet, you can also send me a few questions. And if you haven't already, I do suggest that you sign up for my Facebook group, Functional Medicine for Hormone Imbalances. It's an amazing group of over 6,000 women, and there's great support in there. There's ways to ask questions. There's ways to gain knowledge. I have Facebook Lives once to twice per week on topics like this and many others around hormone balancing for females over 40 and beyond. And I'd really look forward to having you in that group so that we can all work together to help women as a collective learn how to rebalance their health naturally as they move towards menopause. Let's not just suffer in silence and just try and get through and survive, because we really aren't going to be living our best life when we do that. And there's so many ways to get our life and our health back on track in this time period of life. So thank you again so much for being part of my YouTube channel. I really look forward to bringing you more and more information. And if you can, do just one thing today out of those tips that I shared with you to help you start rebalancing your adrenal and hormone wellness. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.